Welcome to Entrepreneurs, Executives, and Eccentrics, a podcast dedicated to the stories, strategies, and secrets of remarkable individuals. Join us as we engage in enlightening conversations with intriguing entrepreneurs, accomplished executives, and fascinating eccentrics, exploring their journeys, triumphs, and unconventional wisdom that has shaped their success. Bob Knorr is the founder and CEO of Timeless Tartans, a collegiate fashion company that creates unique plaid designs using his patented algorithm that blends a university's founding year, geographic coordinates, and colors to craft subtle yet recognizable plaid patterns. Since launching in 2019, Timeless Tartans has grown to over 140 schools, partnering with top manufacturers in Italy and Austria to offer high-quality custom products that capture school pride without using logos.
Hello, Bob. Welcome. Can you tell me who you are and what you do?
Great. Hey, Scott, my name's Bob Knorr. I've done a lot of things, but currently I run a company called Timeless Tartans. We are a collegiate fashion company. I can tell you a little bit more about that, but I just want to thank you for the opportunity to chat today. You know, your podcast has been a really great resource for anyone, especially young entrepreneurs. And I really like the name too, Entrepreneurs, Executives, and Eccentrics. I think it really resonates with me and I'm sure with many of your listeners. So thanks again.
That we were trying to make it where it would appeal to the broadest sense of the people that would be interested in entrepreneurship or whatever, right? It's like the broadest sense of the three words. But yes, please continue.
Yeah, well, I think I check off 2.5 of those boxes. So when I got your email, I was really pleased to talk further. So my professional and personal journey has really been shaped by a lot of unique times and places where I've lived over the last 30 years. And now, you know, with the benefit of hindsight, I can see how many of these seemingly unrelated events that have occurred over this time have really impacted where I am today in the fashion world. I never would have predicted I would have been in the fashion world. I started out as finance and accounting management trainee for Johnson & Johnson in healthcare, went out on my own, and then started my own company, and then have started and funded a number of small companies over the last 15, 20 years, as well as doing some teaching entrepreneurship as an adjunct at a few universities.
So Timeless Tartans. Okay, so how the heck did you? So I was, we were talking earlier, and I hear business models every single day, right? And I love the idea that this idea, appeals to just millions and millions and millions of people. Anybody who's been to a university, anybody who wears a tie, anybody who wants to show. I mean, it's this giant cross section. So can you kind of maybe go into that a little bit? How did you get here?
Sure. So I was teaching at the time, and my teaching method was a combination of case studies and then theory. And specifically, I taught to individuals who were not business majors. So that was a little bit important in that every single student for every semester that I taught was given the opportunity to, or actually the challenge, the assignment to form a new business over the course of the semester. So it was like a rapid startup. So went through ideation, planning, execution. But then running alongside of that, I was teaching my case study, the case study particularly with Tapestry Medical, which we can talk about. But it was primarily healthcare related. And I had students from all kinds of disciplines unrelated to healthcare and everything under the sun. And so at one point I had one of my students say, Professor Knorr, it's all well and good that you're teaching us this theory, but all your background is in healthcare. And so it was sort of a friendly challenge. He said, how do we know that these theories that you're teaching, they're based on your experience in healthcare, apply to the, other industries? I said, well, Corey, these are first principles. They're not unique to healthcare. She said, well, if you've got us starting a business, prove to us that you can do it. So again, it was kind of a friendly challenge. So I said, fine, game on. I said, what industry are you, or what business are you looking to pursue? And she said, fashion. Well, I've never been much of a fashion guy. Usually T-shirts and sweatpants is my idea of fashion. So I said, okay, great, game on. And then so from that, I went through the same process that we were teaching. Look at an unmet need, come up with a solution, and then implement it. And so, being the only arrangement was, I said, I'm not going to compete against you. You're going to do your thing. I'm going to do my thing, but I'm going to compete in the collegiate fashion world. So in observing that, I had a number of my students, a number of these students were grad students getting ready for the workforce. one of the things I noticed was everyone on a college campus, as you know, like they wear their college gear 6 days a week, game day, et cetera. But when they go out for interviews, et cetera, they're not wearing their overtly logoed ties, right? As I used to say, lions and tigers and bears have to stay on campus when you're going for a job interview. You can't be wearing college gear. So I said, well, okay, how can we capture the school pride that individuals have in a way that's not in your face? And so what I did was I looked at Burberry. I looked at Burberry, iconic plaid brand, and it's been around for 150 plus years. Everyone knows Burberry. You can look at Burberry and say, yeah, that person's wearing a Burberry tie, but there's no affiliation with Burberry. It's more aspiration, right? The fact that I can walk around wearing an $800 tie or scarf. And so I said, well, how do you make a design that's associated with a university, but is not in your face with logos? And so with that, I was looking at what are the things that really make college time and place special for individuals. So I said, okay, that's it. Let's find a way to capture the essence of a college identity without using logos, but still working with the university. So this wasn't, we weren't circumventing the licensing process. In fact, what we did was went out of our way to license with the company to the universities and develop a new identity for the companies using this algorithm. So what we did was literally, this idea came to me about 2:00 in the morning one night. I woke up and I said, time and space, that's what we have to do. So it's almost a metaphysical solution. I said, let's see, what happens if you take the founding year of a school, the geographic coordinates of some iconic place on campus, put them together in an algorithm along with the official colors, and then make that the new expression of the school. So that's what we did. I looked at it. I started testing schools. I tested schools in the Northeast, the Southeast, all over the country, different founding years going back to the 1600s to the 1900s. And lo and behold, when you did this combination of founding year divided by the geographic coordinates, you ended up with these really interesting patterns, kind of like a tartan or plaid pattern similar to Burberry. And so then we built a story around that, took that to the universities. They loved it. And so we started out at one school, Drexel University, where I was an undergrad. And at that time, I used to tell my students, you can have the most clever idea in the world, but timing is everything. And so we launched the business in December of 2019, weeks before COVID started. And so we had a great gala at the top social club in Philadelphia. And, 3 weeks later, the whole country had shut down. But during that time, for the next 2.5 years, when it was really hard to get on the college campuses, word spread. And so individuals beginning at Drexel and then other schools in the Philadelphia area. And by the time, restrictions had been lifted, we were, over 50 schools. And then we've just been growing ever since. We add new schools every quarter, and we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was looking through your algorithm on uspto.gov for your Tartan patent. I don't know, there's something about the idea that, it's not just the pattern, it's not just the color. There's actually, years and all kinds of other data that's really specific to universities. It's kind of awesome. And now, also the idea that you could tell the person interviewing you, right, without telling the person who's interviewing you where you went to school. I absolutely love the idea. So how many schools are you doing this for now?
We're close to about 140 schools, and we've even branched out into some prep schools, some destinations, some social clubs, and Greek sororities or sororities fraternities. So it's just, at this point, schools and institutions are actually coming to us, and what we do is we work with them and develop the story. And I find people love the story, particularly the other aspect of the tartan, by the way, is the decodability. So you could theoretically count the threads within the tartan pattern, do some pretty simple math, and throw it to Google Earth, and you'll end up back on the college campus. So when people understand that, it becomes a memorable story. in fact, just one validation of this was shortly after we launched. I happened to be in the Philadelphia airport, was shuttling between Austin, Texas, and Philadelphia, where I was teaching at both locations. And I happened to be wearing my Timeless Tartans tie, and a woman came up to me at the airport. She happened to be wearing a Timeless Tartans scarf, and she came up to me and said, Drexel University. I said, yeah, how did you know? She didn't know my association with Timeless Tartans. She said, I see the tartan pattern. I said, yeah, that's right. Well, I said, but it doesn't say Drexel on this. How do you know? And then she started to feed back to me the story that we had played out, which was, as you know, Scott, as an entrepreneur, it's great to hear when your story comes back and played really more eloquently than I could have told the story. And, I said to her, had we just been wearing a Drexel Dragon T-shirt or sweatshirt walking by one another in the airport, you might say go Dragons or something, but you would not have made a big deal about it. But she came up, and what really ensued was sort of this impromptu reunion. It was just, for me, that was validation. Of course, then COVID hit, I think, on my flight back to Austin, and we had to kind of keep things under wraps for a couple of years. But
I love that. I love that your brand story, when you get your brand story repeated back to you, it's almost like I won. I did it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. And it's kind of a sense of validation and well-being. You're like, oh my God, I've created this thing that now is a living, breathing monster that's got mythology, right? It's got all these things that go along with it.
Yeah.
That is absolutely glorious. So I've got two questions for you specifically. How hard is the IP with the universities? You just have a standard agreement, boom, send it out, or is every university got no, yeah, you can't use this logo or that logo. They're historically very difficult to do this, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. No, I think our biggest challenge early on was convincing them that we were going to the universities with this design that we had designed. Now, using their colors, but their colors were really, for the most part, public domain. I think there are a couple of universities that actually own their colors, but for the most part, colors are, and the combination of the colors are public domain. The only thing you can't do is make an overt association to the school without a license. So our biggest challenge early on was convincing the schools that, yes, we want to have a license, despite the fact that we're not going to be splashing your logos all over our products. And they said, well, look, tell me why you want to do that again. These licenses are expensive. They cost 15, 20% of or more of sales. Why would you want to willingly do that? And I said, because we want to create the association. And so what we ended up doing was, the short answer to your question is, for the most part, we work through third-party licensing agents, and there are like about a half a dozen licensing agents that manage 99% of the colleges and universities in the country. So we work through them. They know us, and then they serve as an intermediary. They almost act as like a sports agent, if you will, for the universities. Once we have that initial relationship established, we're then free to go to the universities, work with the alumni relations, development office, or others within the university to kind of promote it within the campus. But we found it really easy to work with most universities because we've got something that's really distinctive and unique. It's not just another T-shirt with logos slapped on it.
It's glorious is what it is. It's a brand story, right? It's a mythology. I think I just was going to the universities, and they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. I mean, you really get a sense of UT looks like UT, right? You really get a sense of the tartan being correct. I'm a little bit blown away that you went to the trouble of going to every university, but I guess it makes sense, right? You want to be, and out of curiosity, now, are they just getting a cut of the sale, or are you actually having to pay them up front from a licensing fee? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, we actually do both. Most universities have some kind of nominal upfront fee or minimum guarantee, and then we pay a percentage on top of that. So it's workable early on. The early years, it's an investment, let's say, in a relationship. But we're happy to do that. There's some pretty good data that shows that licensed goods, like you take the same T-shirt, for example. Not that we do T-shirts, but just as an example. You take the same gray T-shirt and you slap a logo on it for any university, and you can charge a 30 to 40% premium for that. Now they charge us about 20%. So we actually look at the licensing fee almost as an implied marketing expense. So it's actually a good deal for us. We can, our prices reflect that. We also have high quality products too. We've made a decision about a year ago to move all of our manufacturing to Italy, like the fashion capital of the world, where we're dealing with these amazing multi-generational family-owned companies that are serving all of the major fashion houses in the world. We've got margin to cover the license.
It is a fantastic story. I don't know. It's just I like now. If you would have gone 5 years ago, because I think you've been doing this for 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah, I think our official start date was December 2019 is when we officially launched. And then, I sort of handicapped the 2.5 years where COVID really kind of shut us down. So I would say most of our growth has come in the last 24, 30 months or so.
It's just, if you would have if you would have gone back in time 10 years ago and described this business to you, she'd be like, there's no way. There's no way. You could, think about how contrived this feels if you were trying to convince, 10 year ago you that this was going to be a thing one day. And here you are. It's absolutely glorious. So, okay. So with all that said, you being a professor, you being in the space, you being, kind of really understand the kind of the entrepreneurship, are there a couple things you would have done differently? Like if you really could have gone back 5 years ago, maybe gone a little bit different. I don't know, maybe your first employee, maybe the manufacturer. Are there some things that you could kind of tell us that you would have done differently?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things we would have done is started with the top manufacturers. We initially focused too much on cost, and as a result, we ended up going to different parts of the world that had lower unit cost. I guess that was the old finance or accounting guy in me coming out. So what we did was shifted it over to Italy. And we also do some products in Austria too, which are just amazing. But worked with them and we've developed relationships with these again multi-generational family-owned businesses. Our socks, believe it or not, are made in a town in northern Italy. The building itself is 400 years old, which is like, now they haven't been making socks for 400 years, but they've been making socks for over 100 years. And, just the history and the fact that we're not dealing with some nameless, faceless, organization or supplier out of a different part of the world. We're dealing with families that in some cases, the whole towns, our socks are manufactured in Brescia, Italy, where it's considered the sock capital of the world. They've been making socks since people have had feet, like going back to the Middle Ages. And so it's just a completely different feel. And because we spend part of the year in Switzerland, we're, a couple hour drive from all of our factories. So I've gotten to know the families, et cetera. That's probably the most important change that we did. I would say we did, as with any business, when you're moving fast, if you're not making some small mistakes, you're probably not moving fast enough. And I've made plenty of small tactical mistakes. I don't think I think the big strategic decisions we've made have been pretty good. I think we've been really fortunate. I've got a great small team, and that has helped us navigate the growth that we've experienced. Yeah, I think the only other thing, is I wish we had spent a little bit more time and effort on social media. We don't have a huge social media presence, and that's something that we're addressing now.
So out of curiosity, what's that delta, right? Between you were probably doing this in Vietnam or some other type of textile place, right? What was the delta between, because I also know that those, the kind of those historically manufacturing countries, I know they're having this demographic cliff or going off this demographic cliff. And as a result, all the prices are going up, right? They're not necessarily as competitive. And with that said, how big was the delta between Italy and that other place?
Believe it or not, we were able to, because we ended up going direct to the factories in Europe, we were able to cut out the middleman that we were working with in the U.S., our sourcing company. So so as a result, the only trade-off we had, we were actually able to lower the cost of Italian-made silk items compared to where we were sourcing before. And the only slight trade-off was we had to purchase slightly larger minimum order quantities, which was more of a, so that was a capital, not a unit cost delta. And we were prepared to do that because we had confidence in the business. But yeah, it worked out well. So, it's like what was the old Miller commercial, taste great, less filling. So we've got, higher Italian, European made quality at a lower unit cost. And so I think it's worked really well for us. We're really pleased about that.
That's very surprising. Like I would have never have thought that would have been your answer, to be honest with you. I always thought that manufacturing, let's say Vietnam, was like at a zero, right, in terms of manufacturing costs.
I think it is certainly for high volume items. For lower volume items like ours, we're doing fashion accessories, so it's a whole different level than doing, say, T-shirts or something. But also, eliminating the middleman, because we found the factories directly, and we were able to avoid a U.S. based sourcing company that was taking a lot of that markup that was based on the manufacturing cost. So, that's it. But it means now having to spend more time in direct relationship with our companies, which means me spending more time each year in Italy. So, that was the price to pay. So it's worked out okay.
So, I mean, and obviously, you probably don't want to tell me too much more of this, but are you doing tens of thousands of units, hundreds? I mean, how many units are you doing at a like, how big is this business without obviously giving away the farm?
Yeah. We always look at our sales in terms of brand sales, because we do have multiple channels where we're doing both wholesale usually through the college bookstore, some independent retailers, and online. So this year will be in low seven figures, total brand sales. And we've got really good operating margins because of some of the sourcing changes that we've done. So we're doing, I would say, tens of thousands of individual units. Obviously, we've got products ranging from socks that pretty much anyone can afford to high-end silk accessories that are, $75 to $100, that are really sort of gift items. Students are not buying $75, $80 ties, that's for sure, but their parents are, and alumni are, and faculty or development offices or alumni relation offices are. And so we've got that sort of product mix going on. A lot of socks, fewer silk gift items. And then we recently launched an amazing product that's made in Austria. It's called an iconic image blanket that really works well with our brand. And what it is, it's made from recycled pre-consumer cotton. But what they do is they've got a technology that uses black and white photos. Picture like an Ansel Adams black and white photo reproduced on a blanket that's not going through like a printed or a sublimation process, which is kind of cheap. It's actually woven into the fabric. You can get like an amazing, amazing image reproduced on this amazing fabric that's sustainable, but it's got the feel of cashmere. Most people who touch it think it's cashmere, but it's got the durability of cotton. And so what we do is we take photos. If you go, for example, to the Harvard website, we've got a photo of the Johnson Gate outside of one of the iconic gates around Harvard Yard. And so that was our photo. We reproduced it onto this blanket. And what it looks like is what's really cool is the back side of it is it looks like a photographic negative, because it's, this image is actually woven in with this very fine process. And so we've got the long-winded way of saying we've got products as low as $20 socks that anyone can afford. And then, the higher end iconic image blankets that are, really special heirloom-like gifts for graduation or what have you.
Yeah, these are 220. I'm looking at the picture now and it looks awesome. It looks really, really cool. Yeah, I mean, so now I guess it's a matter of you're just going to add universities, you're going to add products. That's basically the next 10 years is what it feels like. You just kind of, you just kind of go to the factory and go, you know what, let's go try this, or let's go try that, or is it really more about expansion for universities for you?
I think we've got two growth vectors that I would talk. I would consider. One is growing new institutions, and there are we're at 130, 140 universities. There are thousands of universities in the country, and I would say, by the way, it's an important note. It's not a question of how big the university is or how high they are in the rankings. It in fact, in some respects, some of our best university partnerships are with the smaller, overlooked school, the school that doesn't get the attention because they're not a Power 5 football team or they're not an Ivy League school, but we show them some attention and they love it. Like we've got some examples of schools like that that have just really embraced this because they're getting attention for the first time. But we've got two growth vectors. One is we can continue to add institutions, and we could be doing this for another 30 years. Or we can expand our product range. So that's actually something, discussions we've just started having with some companies recently, companies that are doing sized apparel, because everything we do now is pretty much non-sized accessories. So you can imagine, for example, shirts with tartan trims with a, kind of a subtle, sophisticated look where it's not covered with logos, but still says that same story, similar to what you said. You could look at someone wearing a shirt and say, aha, I see the XYZ University tartan showing up on the trim on your shirt.
I think maybe you are a fashionista. I think you're like, I'm not a fashion person, but it turns out maybe you are. Bob, this was a really awesome conversation. I thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I really appreciate your, what you're doing. You're really, I mean, this has a, major impact. This is something I'm going to be recommending to my students and some of the young, aspiring entrepreneurs that I meet. I really appreciate your time and interest.
It was awesome meeting you, and thank you again. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.